Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins here. We got a special report for you. What's going on in our skies and in the history of the UFO phenomenon. Tonight, we're gonna be going over videos that have been submitted to us this week, including people's reactions. We're up here in Waimea on the Big Island and we're visiting some friends. We're gonna be showing them some UFO videos for the first time and we're gonna get their reaction, including vintage footage of people speaking of the UFO phenomenon and an update for Christmas Day. The James Webb Telescope's gonna be launching off and we have Dark Hour Paranormal who's got a report for us. So buckle up everybody. Let's start with the new UFO videos right into Third Phase of Moon and the public reaction.
There's something hanging out there in the sky. What the is that? What the is that? Oh my god. Oh my god, what is that? What is that? What the What is this? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, UFOs. Oh my god. Look at that.
What's your first impressions looking at that?
It's like it looks like rings, like a diamonds on a ring, like lit up diamonds on the back of a ring, but they're really synchronized. Like they're clearly moving, but they're moving so in sync that it looks like they're staying still. I'd say they're probably the size of like a large car. They seem like each light is like a car, the size of a car, and then they're all together. So I would say it's probably the size of like a tractor trailer.
Each light or as an individual?
As
one craft?
I think it's close. It feels like it's close because it's going so fast. I feel like it's right there, but it's so synchronized. It looks like it's just staying still.
Do you think it be military or otherworldly?
Well, what would the military have? So if it was over Ohio, then there's a high chance that it could be related to some kind of military activity. But even with military activity, there's nothing that makes sense from that. It doesn't look like something that you can just put up and synchronize. If it was just one, it'd be a little bit more military-esque, but because there's two of them and because they're so synchronized, it just seems too perfect for military.
There's something hanging out there in the sky. What the
So their reactions obviously are really authentic from my my view of this. They sound kind of scared, a little excited. To me, these look like they're glowing, like a glowing dome with lights around it. And I don't see any normal, it doesn't look like a plane, like the normal red and green lights, right? I don't know, for the size of it, they look pretty big. I mean, comparably, it looks like it's far away, but the lights look big, bigger than normal, than anything I've ever seen in the sky. So what really strikes me is the lights in the back. It looks like the back of something, like the back of the Millennium Falcon or something, where it's they look like jet rockets, jet boosters in the back of something, but it almost looks like they're just hovering. It could be military. It really could be. I just don't know. If this was in Ohio, I don't understand why military would be experimenting with stuff like this in the public at all. It should be out in the middle of nowhere, usually, like Area 51 or something, right? it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
What I find interesting is that they're identical, right? 4 lights, maybe 3, but I think it was 4. And I would just try, I'd be curious, right? I'd be really curious. I wouldn't be scared. I'd want to get closer to them. That wouldn't be possible, but I'd be like, yeah, come closer, right? Let's see it. Let's talk, right? That was awesome.
Maybe. I think I would be amused, but confused. Because I'm really not sure what it is. Although at first I thought maybe some kind of light phenomenon, birds, but I didn't see any craft-like shapes. They were mainly circular, white, lit up objects, which is weird, but it could be a light phenomenon. I really don't know. None of us do, right? Imagine I saw it right here, right now. I would probably freak out too. But, I mean, why would there be just 4 random lights? It doesn't make sense in terms of a craft to me. Although, who knows? I'm not really sure. But they almost look like baseball or like stadium lights, just like flying in the sky, which is very strange. So again, I have no idea. There's too many weird things in the sky these days.
Do you think it could be military? Secret Space Force?
Why? Why would they just fly these weird 4 lights in the sky? It didn't look like anything, unless they were coming at us this way. Were they coming forward? Yeah? Maybe. Military is up to some interesting things.
Sure military, but I've like paraphrase it, act like you didn't ask that question.
Oh, okay.
We'll be done in 30 seconds.
I'm not sure if they're military. It just didn't, it looked like a very strange set of lights that I don't know. I just can't pinpoint what exactly it is, but I would be quite confused and enthusiastic if I did see those in the sky. So hopefully there'll be someone who can answer it better.
But if I looked at that and it was just still there, my first thought would be that we're under attack. Something's under attack right now. It doesn't seem like clouds. It doesn't seem like a natural phenomenon. It's not moving with the clouds. It's moving at its own rate, and it's all kind of synchronized. And then there's this one translucent fish-like object that comes faster than the other ones. So it's passing all the small little dots, and that seems to be like some kind of mothership or something. But it doesn't look like something that I would think of as clouds or as some kind of light reflection. I wouldn't really think it's balloons, because the balloons would probably be more multicolored, a little bit different looking, and they wouldn't be so like uniform in their patterns. They'd be up and down and they'd be doing different motions, but these are just going across the same field, kind of like a light show. It looks like I'm doing a laser show. There's the one craft that from afar it looks kind of like a fish, and then when they zoom in it looks pretty ovally, but it's got a light on the outside, and then the inside of it looks clear. So it's like it's got a glow to it, almost like a hue, which just makes me wonder if it's some kind of light show or if it's something that is like a mothership. It's kind of confusing.
So I see all of them. They look like these eggs almost. They're all white, right? But there's one above it that looks like it's a circular pattern, almost like a cell, like a living organism. I mean, this could be anything from, if it's not UFO, intelligent craft, it could be some sort of light phenomenon. You know, something that's just like we're not used to seeing, something with the atmosphere. But I mean, from my impression, this looks like dozens of drones, or intelligent drones that we're not really used to seeing at all. Like, this looks pretty... And they do look similar to the Tic Tacs we've seen on the news, like the UFO Tic Tacs by the military. But from my understanding is they caught those Tic Tacs with like infrared. This is from a normal camera, right? Isn't it? That's crazy. So what I'm seeing is that it's sort of transparent. One of them is real transparent. It's the one that's the very, very top of it. This has got to be something intelligent. Like, it can't be just some. They all look like they're going in the same direction, like birds. You see birds flocking together. Like, these are intelligent light orbs, almost traveling in the same direction together. I mean, this is a freaky video. I've never seen anything like it. Like, this is pretty. Where'd you guys get this one? This is fucking weird.
If I thought aliens weren't real and I saw this shit, I'd be questioning my beliefs. Guaranteed. So what I'm seeing is a cluster of it's just a cluster of orbs, like you said, moving in unison. So it's to me it's very clear that they're communicating in some way, because they're all moving together as one unit, but they're all separate. And there are many of them too. I'd be curious as to how long that was seen for, right? And in where it and if it was in the same speed as the wind, like if it was going with the wind or if it wasn't. Not that that would make too much of a difference for me, but it would clearly not be a natural, out of nature experience. It wouldn't be birds, it wouldn't be an animal to me. I've never seen something like that, ever. And it looks like something that is more intelligent than us, to me, when I see that. Because they're all moving in unison. They're all small parts, but they're all in this big, cohesive movement, which is wild to me.
Third Phase of Moon has recently obtained old stock footage of people and pilots talking about UFOs, what are now called UAPs by the military, which I think is a joke, by the way. These pilots have close encounters with UFOs. Take a look at this vintage footage and we're going to ask the public what they think.
Well, we saw a globular object approximately 5 miles ahead of us. At first, the frontal cross-section area of this object was so small that I thought it was an aircraft with a highly swept-backed wing. But as it got closer to us and below us, it was obvious that it had no wings at all. And I then considered it to be a meteorological balloon. After it passed us by, from first to last sight was approximately 10 seconds, and it then occurred to me that the speed of closing was so great that it couldn't possibly be a free balloon. I have no idea what it could be, and I passed the report to London Airways.
How big was the object?
Well, it's very difficult to assess the size of any object whilst flying. All I can say, the closest I can get to it, is that it was smaller than a Viscount.
Was it travelling at any great speed?
Well, the closing speed of both the object and my own aircraft was up in the region of 1,000 miles an hour, which means that the object itself must have been doing at least 600 to 700 miles an hour.
Were there any windows in it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Was it powered in any way?
Well, it must have been powered. A free balloon we would only approach it at the speed of our own aircraft, which is 300 miles an hour. So it must have been powered. The speed of closing was much too great for it to be a free balloon.
Did anybody else witness the object?
Yes, First Officer Murphy, my co-pilot.
I feel like there's something to be said about the vintage footage, because all these years ago, people didn't really know what was going on. There was a lot more authenticity a long time ago, and there was also a lot less knowledge of technology that we have now. So nowadays, people assume things. They assume military, they assume drones, lights, lasers. But back then, with the technology we had, either the military was decades and decades ahead of anything they've been telling anybody, or this is like a legit thing that people were seeing, and just because we weren't in the sky as much, it was a lot more of a rarity.
You know, I wish more pilots did that in today's time, and it looks like they are leaning towards that with the new government agencies and stuff like that, but pretty impressed with them wanting to come out and talk about this experience. especially way back in the late 50s or early 60s. It's really impressive for them to wanting to do it and being interviewed by the news to do it. Usually, like, people are asked to not say a word. Like, they say, don't say a word about this, otherwise you'll lose your job, right? I mean, that's what I've heard back in the day, even today's day. Yeah, so that's pretty crazy.
Now, the James Webb Telescope is going to be launching off the United States soil into orbit past the moon, and it's going to be opening up an eye to the universe like we've never seen before. And we have Dark Hour Paranormal with some insight about the James Webb Telescope and the implications. Roll it, Dark Hour.
What if our technology advanced so rapidly we could observe the time of the Big Bang, the popular consensus on how our physical universe was created? 3 days after the winter solstice of 2021, one team is working diligently to tap into our wildest imagination, manifesting a dream humanity has held since the dawn of sentience. James Webb, in contract with NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency, plans to launch a state-of-the-art telescope with the aid of a rocket into deep space. This will take place near Kourou in French Guiana. The purpose of this mission is to locate the preliminary galaxies that formed billions of years ago, and to use this wandering eye to puncture the nebulous nature of stars forming planetary systems. The telescope will utilize infrared imaging to achieve this. We may be able to observe, in real time, these formations as they gather momentum, certainly an achievement currently unattained by any known human being. The size of James Webb's telescope is surprisingly underwhelming for such an endeavor, measuring only 6.5 meters across. Although 3 times larger than the Hubble telescope, one might surmise a larger vessel to carry such sensitive equipment, but engineers have sought many solutions to utilize compartmentalization, and thus the telescope is not 1 inch more than needed. Once launched into the throes of the grand spatial abyss, it will take up to 6 months for the telescope to unfold its mirrors, sun shields, and peripheral instruments, having traveled 1 million miles in that time. It will go through 50 deployments before reaching ultimate cruising form. Mike Menzel, an engineer at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, recently reported there are over 300 elements that could induce failure, and the entire endeavor could be called the most complex sequence of deployments ever attempted in a single space mission. While one can readily imagine space travel as a process to be quite complex, this particular mission is wrought with challenges every moment the telescope moves further away from the Earth. First introduced in 1997, the initial concept of the telescope came with a modest price tag of about $500 million. Through human error, mechanical malfunction, 90-degree turns within the engineering, and corporate errors, the total monetary cost of this project is now upwards of $10 billion. Once the team is able to settle the telescope in space, speeding towards its destination, many of the risks associated with its launch and break from the atmosphere will be behind them. Essentially, the telescope's main mission is to glance back 13.5 billion years to witness the formation of the first galaxies. While light is visible to the naked eye to a certain degree when spread over great distances, eventually light will shift in one way of the spectrum or another, and in this circumstance, the light emanating from these long-lost galaxies is received by the telescope in infrared. In respect to the telescope's optimistic research, there are 4 scientific themes the team hopes to traverse. These themes are the first galaxies, galaxy evolution, stellar life cycle, and other worlds. Webb believes the telescope will achieve its goals in these categories for primarily 2 reasons. The first, by being quite large, and second, being extremely cold. The larger the mirror on a telescope of this type, even including the smaller mirror affixed to the Hubble, will allow more light to be collected and retained, allowing fainter objects to become visible. Now, why is it important the telescope remain so cold? In the event the telescope or the mirror itself warms to a certain degree, there may be the risk of contamination through the device emitting its own infrared wavelengths. This would certainly send false readings to the team, and this is why size and temperature are so significant. In respect to these restrictions, the team created a large shield consisting of 5 layers that blocks out the sun, moon, and surrounding light sources observed in our immediate galaxy. Many of the peripheral instruments adorning James Webb's telescope will measure the length and intensity of observed infrared light. The deeper red wavelengths represent the earliest galaxies, while cutting through the dust and debris to view the nebula of a forming star system. The implications of what this project could yield may have the impact to change our understanding of the universe from a very early point. Through years of setbacks and applied extracurricular effort, the James Webb Telescope is only days away from propelling outwards from our planet, logging and documenting the earliest formations of our universe. Whatever we find will most certainly broaden our intellectual understanding of biology and astrophysics, along with the reserve that what the human race puts their energy into can manifest in way of the greater good for all.
So let's keep our fingers crossed that the James Webb Telescope has a successful launch, and we're going to be holding our breath until it releases the full potential of its eyes on the universe in about 6 months from now.